welcome to a new episode of the Habibis, three game developers drinking good Arab tea. My name is Rami Ismail, and I'm your host for this episode.
And I am Fawzi Mesmar.
And I'm Osama Darius.
I have nostalgia for this intro theme. I haven't heard it for a long time.
For a long time. Where have you been, Rami?
Yeah, I've been all over the place. I've been traveling. I've been at events. I've been working on like how do you say that? A young relationship and figuring stuff out. And it's just been it's been a lot. Just a lot of stuff is happening, and it's been nice. It's been a good busy.
Good. Well, we're happy to have you back.
Right.
It's the three Habibis together.
Yes.
Yeah.
For the first time in weeks? A month?
Yeah, it's been a while. I mean, except for that suhoor bite we recorded the other day.
True.
To celebrate Eid.
True.
But that was the first time there was the three of us in quite a while.
Yeah.
It's so funny that it seems like, getting all three of us in the same place is not just the game we're playing. I think like there's a story I wanted to tell you guys the other day. It seems like there's an ongoing gotta catch 'em all Habibis thing going.
That's true. That's true, yeah. Actually. I was talking to somebody who has met two of us and wants to meet the third one.
Yeah, this is happening so often. I find it kind of funny. I was like seeing I was some indie studios here in Sweden the other day, and they were showing me one of their games, and then they were saying like, "Oh, that's cool. We got Rami gave us feedback on our game in this other conference a couple of months ago, and now we have you. So we got 2 out of 3 Habibis. Now we need to get the third."
I was actually on 2 podcasts that had both me and Rami as guests, and they said now we're missing Fawzi. So
yep. Yeah, and I have a friend who has met me and Osama but doesn't have the Fawzi yet.
It's like a Habibi Pokemon Go happening.
We're the Pokemon.
Yeah, should we make a stamp card or something? All of us just carry a Habibi stamp, and if we meet somebody, we stamp it.
If you get the 3 stamps, you earn a voucher for good Arab tea.
You get one free basbousa.
They actually each have like 1/3 of the logo of the Habibis. If you stamp them together, it's the full logo.
You get the full logo.
I love it.
The paper explodes.
That seems a little rough for 3 Arabs. Let's not do that one. I have enough trouble getting into the United States as is.
Let's retract that.
Yeah, let's not do that. Let's go. Yeah. Let's go with the logo or the tea.
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 Very.
The
tea, and the tea even is not that hot.
No, lukewarm tea.
Agent
for TSA purposes. Yeah,
what's our agent?
Frank Anderson Smith.
Yes.
Yeah.
We haven't spoken to Frank directly in a while, Agent Frank.
Yeah,
sorry, Frank.
Agent Smith.
Listen, Fawzi was joking.
Yeah, I was joking.
He meant exploding as in like it's folded really nicely, and then when you unfold it, it's like very elegant. That's what he meant.
Exploding like it has an explosive personality, that kind of.
Yeah, I don't know, Frank. Like if Fawzi says he has an explosive personality, please take it up with him. I'm good.
Yep.
I'm a very calm. I'm a very non-explosive personality, for the record.
My personality doesn't even tick or anything at all.
Yeah. Okay. So, Assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum salam.
We have a lot to talk about because it's been a while since it's been all of us, which means there's just certain topics that don't come up. Like if I'm not there, Destiny and airplanes don't come up.
That's true. If I'm not there, baseball caps don't come up.
Yeah, and if Fawzi is not there, then other things don't come up. I actually don't know what doesn't come up. If Fawzi isn't there.
Yeah, Fawzi, what's your thing?
What is your thing?
I don't know if it's not planes. I'm not sure now. Don't put me on the spot.
maybe it's like like a little more expert look at movies.
Yeah, for sure.
And TV. That's it.
For sure.
Okay.
For
sure. Yeah. That's
I like that. Yeah.
Tamam. Good. Oh, we made a list before this episode of what we're going to try to talk about.
We can't fit it in one episode, though, but we're going to try.
So I'm just going to read the list and see how far we get. Okay?
Go for it.
All right. We have Weird West, Moon Knight, Aegis Rim for the Switch, Kirby Forgotten Something, Old Enough, The Bridgerton, Destiny 2, Elden Ring New Game Plus, Flight Class, and Stanley Parable Ultra Deluxe, and Eid.
That's a lot.
That's a lot.
Shall we just get started?
Yeah, go for it. What
Okay.
are we talking
Well, I
about?
didn't watch Weird West, so.
Oh, I played Weird West. It's a game.
Oh yeah, sorry.
It's
Yeah,
a
sorry.
game.
I didn't play Weird West. Yeah,
Yeah, I played a
sorry.
little
I
bit of Weird West.
my brain did like the Wild Wild West instead. I don't know why that happened,
It's
but
close
that's totally
enough.
what happened.
Yeah, it's close enough. Well, I
Yeah,
haven't
I
Yeah,
watched
played.
Weird
that in
West.
years.
I played it last week, I think, and I was talking about it, and sounds like Osama picked it up.
Did you finish it?
I came close. I haven't
Okay.
finished it yet.
I think I feel I'm about halfway through. I
Uh-huh.
don't know for sure, but that it feels like the about at that point. And okay, so what it is in short, it's a like twin stick shooter kind of with RPG elements based in the West, like like a Western, but with some paranormal like elements. There are witches, there are demons, there are other creatures like that. That's the gist of it. Did I miss anything? No, that's about right, right?
Yeah, it's like commandos with twin stick combat.
Exactly.
Hmm.
So I'm enjoying it. Actually, it took me by surprise. The main things that I like about it is that it feels like I can do anything. Like th- okay, how do I explain that? So there was a quest giver who gave me a quest line. And he's like, go do this there. And they had the item on them that I needed, and they would give me something in return if I completed that quest. However, I didn't want to do the thing because the thing didn't vibe with me, right? It was kind of an evil thing. So I just shot him. And then everyone in the town attacked me. So I killed everyone in the town and got the item off his corpse because I'm like, this is a bad dude and I'm not going to hurt the other people. And then everywhere I go, people are mentioning that I killed everybody in that town or that killed that person. It just happened.
Hmm.
Like it just allows for and reminds you of the actions that you do. And it didn't feel like that's what there was no dialogue option of attack this person. It was just a choice I made to see what would happen, fully expecting it to force me to reload or for the person to be invulnerable. And I've had other moments like that in the game where my choices are reflected in the game. I know this isn't unique, but for a game made by such a a relatively small team, I didn't expect it, and it was done pretty elegantly. The other thing, which is a callback to what Fauzi said from before, the combat is both good and clunky. One thing that it's missing is some kind of auto lock feature, not 100%, but just the smoothing that happens when you're close to shooting a target. That's missing completely. So what it forces you to do is to be extremely precise with your analog movement because it almost feels like some things that should have hit don't. Like the collision boxes
Hmm.
are just a tad too small. Where I'm like, well, that in almost any other game similar to this, they would have counted that as a hit. But because it was a pixel to the left, it wasn't in this case. And it feels like a deliberate choice but it also doesn't feel good when you're playing it. I don't know if you agree, Fauzi, but
Yeah,
that.
I agree. It's partially what I was talking about last time. It's the combat is competent, but it feels so. It feels
Unforgiving.
clunky at sometimes. Aiming is a bit difficult
Yeah.
at that, and like they've added a lot of mechanics that slow down time to help you out with your combat. Like
Yes.
when you jump in the air, turns are like Max Payne style.
Hmm.
The time is kind of slower and all of that, and there's items that you can take that kind of like or upgrades that you can enable to allow you to do that a bit more when you need that because normally it's not as precise as you would want the twin stick shooter to be.
Yep. I really like the stealth gameplay though. I'm enjoying that a
That's
lot.
cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
It always goes
Uh,
bad, like at some point.
so that was also kind of what I was talking about last time. It's kind of like it's the ever evolving issue in stealth games is that once you're caught, everything goes badly,
Yeah. Yeah, but
and
it
then like
almost
it's
like
kind of hard to get it back.
it's true, but it's almost like that's how I approach combat in this game now. It's like how many can I take out
Mhm.
before I'm discovered? I did the same thing with I don't know if either of you played Payday or Payday 2.
Yeah,
So
Payday
some
2.
mission,
Yeah.
yeah, some missions in Payday are meant to be completely stealth, and others are meant to be completely loud. But the
Mhm.
ones I like the most are the ones where you start off in stealth, and then at some point you can go loud. So you feel good if you're able to complete the whole thing in stealth, but that's unlikely. Most
Yeah.
likely, at some point it gets loud, and then now you have an easier time because you thinned out. That's how I'm approaching pretty much every scenario in Weird West, and I'm enjoying it that way.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I think there are some games that really pull it off nicely when things go from stealth to action, then back to stealth. Like I think that the Deus Ex games really does that super well.
Mark of the
In which
Ninja
like
also does that well.
what's that? Sorry.
Mark of the Ninja also did that really well.
Oh, Mark of the Ninja as well. Like like these kinds of games, kind of like you still feel like a badass even coming out of stealth into action, then back into stealth. The Phantom Pain even did that pretty well, I thought. But the in this game and some others, like even like Commandos, when the alarm is set, it's hard not to feel that you failed.
Yeah.
For me, I think for the majority of the first half of the game, I was reloading every time. Like do a couple of steps and reload, do a couple of steps and reload, because I hated the feeling of like I failed, so to say.
Yeah.
Though I know that the game can, like, I could just from the beginning just come in and shoot everybody, and the game totally allows for it, but it just feels wrong.
I get you. Yeah. No, I don't have that same feeling in this game, but I do see why you would. If your goal is to finish something in stealth, then the game kind of sets you up to fail in many situations unless you reload. Then I could see that. Overall, I'm really enjoying.
But it's a lot of fun generally.
Yeah, I'm enjoying it a lot, and I'm hoping to finish it over this week. We'll see. Schedule permitting. It is Eid after all in a couple of days. That's going to take over the schedule a bit, so it might take me longer. This is assuming I'm halfway through. I have no idea. I really don't.
Right. Okay. Well, I mean, it's on my radar now, so I'll give it a go.
Go for it.
Cool.
It's on Game Pass, Rami.
Yeah.
We really need to get that Microsoft money someday.
Unofficial sponsor.
Yeah. Okay. Let's. Actually, I think there's one really interesting hop that I kind of want to make then, because you were talking about the collisions being a little weird, and sometimes things that feel like they should hit don't hit.
Mm-hmm.
Kirby does the opposite. Kirby does sometimes things that physically don't hit do hit because it looks like they should hit. And it's a very interesting system because it kind of means you can cheat a little at Kirby.
Oh.
So it's Kirby Forgotten World, Forgotten Land, Forgotten Land.
I keep referring to every new Kirby as the new Kirby game.
The new Kirby game. This is a very new Kirby game, though.
This is what inspired the new 3DS as a name, I think, eventually.
Right. This Kirby is 3D.
Yes, it is indeed.
This Kirby is very 3D, and it is a good Kirby in 3D.
I like it a lot. I'm really enjoying it.
Yeah, I'm really loving it. How far in are you?
I'm at the end of the snow world, so I think I'm
nice.
Pretty close.
Yeah, you're getting there.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just really good. I was kind of shocked, but it's like it has all the sort of like zaniness and whimsical nature, and it still feels like a Kirby game in that most things you can kind of fly over.
Yeah.
But then every now and then you have to go pretty hardcore.
There's a limit on how high you can fly. So like you're limited by like almost I think the highest platform of that particular section.
Yep.
So that you can't just fly over everything and finish the game.
Mm-hmm.
But you can still kind of fly over everything and finish the game.
It's in a very Kirby-like way, yes. But Kirby gets tired. You can't the stamina runs out, and like you have to, you have to like land on something and fly up again. Yep. And like I said, like there's a limit to the height compared to the platform that you start to jump or fly from, and the highest platform on that section, I think.
But, I mean, effectively, it still means that most things you can just kind of pass over if you don't want to deal with them. Which I think is really important for a Kirby game. And I was kind of worried that they would do away with that. But I think one thing I really like about Kirby is that everything you get into feels like you choose to get into it.
Yeah.
And that's just always been a thing that I loved about Kirby. It's like, I don't want to deal with these two enemies. Okay, let's just go past them.
Yeah, it's so cool that, in Kirby games, and this one in particular, they pick up a mechanic, one that you can build an entire game around, and then they use it for for a section of the game, and then
Right.
they move on. Like I'll
Remember
give a
the light bulb?
yeah, it's the light bulb was exactly the example I'm
Yeah.
gonna give. So like for Osama and the other people listening, at some point you can swallow a light bulb. So Kirby becomes a light bulb basically.
Mm.
So like you become this giant pink light bulb, and you move around in the dark, and you can press a button to illuminate.
Mm.
And it's the light and dark kind of puzzle
Okay.
platformer, like
Hmm.
that. We probably played a bunch of those games,
Hmm.
full
Right.
game around that concept, and it's just this tiny section of this Kirby game.
Yeah. Literally goes for like 5 minutes, and then they're like, "Yeah, you're done."
Wow.
Yeah, you're done. Yeah,
Yep.
you can build the entire game around that. It's like, here's this tiny little section. Now we're gonna
Right.
think of all sorts of other things that Kirby could just swallow and turn
Right.
into,
That's
and
Yep.
so
build
cool.
like mechanical sections of that in that level. And what's
There's
cool
like
about
driving.
that part is that I'm playing the entire game couch co-op.
Yeah, I did the Lampard co-op as well, and it was so good.
That's so much fun, like illuminating the
So
part
good.
for your partner to kind of move around, and you're like, stop here, move here, something like that. It's
Yep.
really
Yep.
fun,
No, such a good, and it's beautiful, by the way.
gorgeous.
What a pretty game.
Okay,
Yeah.
you're bumping it higher on my backlog is ridiculous. I'm never going to get to it at all, and Kirby has been
Right.
on it, but you're bumping it higher now because me and my daughter who've been playing It Takes Two for a long time now. It's a long game, by the way, and
Hmm.
she's young, so her attention span is short. So we play like in 30-minute intervals every weekend or something like
Right.
that. But we're like, I had to look it up because I'm like, we must be almost done now, and we were at mission 8 of 10. So we are actually
Okay.
almost done now, and we're looking for the next co-op. Like before this, we played Untitled Goose Game in co-op, which was amazing.
Very
And
cute.
Mhm.
and I think Kirby's going to be our next co-op game that we're going to play together.
Yeah, I was thinking about that
Okay.
actually, Osama. I think you would really enjoy playing this game with one of your kids. Like,
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
perfect for that.
If we
Yeah.
do, I'm definitely not going to end up being Kirby because that's how it works. They always take the character that's on the box, but it's fine. It's going to be a lot of fun either way.
Yeah.
It depends because like the
Yeah.
second player is kind of associated with Kirby, so I think that's why. This is why, like, I think so super smart of Nintendo and they design games for kids as well. Because the second character is designed so that it doesn't get in Kirby's way, so to say. So like the camera and everything is centered around Kirby, and the
Mhm.
other character always kind of like teleports back into
Mm.
Kirby.
Mm.
So even if you fall off the screen or die, or like they don't know what they're going, or they can't do a particularly difficult platforming section, then like the Kirby player can kind of Sherpa the other player around.
You've never seen my daughter play video games. She's really good. Like really,
Awesome.
really good.
Awesome.
Yeah, like if anything.
So maybe you're gonna be the one that needs the Sherpa.
I mean, I did beat Elden Ring, so I'm not terrible myself.
Fair.
You beat Elden Ring, but this is Kirby. This is
Yeah.
a totally different level.
I mean, Kirby is the most hardcore video game character of all time.
It
Like,
is-
let's be honest. Like, I've made this argument many times, but I think Kirby is the most powerful video game character of all time.
oh, without a
If you
doubt.
would, yeah,
Because you can
like,
eat any
Master
other character
Chief,
and take their power.
not a big deal. Elden Ring bosses takes 5 seconds. Like, there's nothing that can't be beaten by Kirby. Kirby is like the eldritch nightmare of video
Oh
game
my
characters.
god! Oh my god!
Genuinely,
I want to
it's
see a
terrifying
photorealistic
character.
depiction of Kirby now.
Can you imagine fighting Kirby and it's just like in 3 seconds everything is dark and you're gone?
Some was the gritty reboot of Kirby.
Right.
The Kirby Noir detective story is down as his luck.
The 90s comic book reboot.
Every time
With all the
Kirby
pouches.
sucks up something, yeah. Every time Kirby sucks up something, just spits out a bunch of bones.
Oh no! Oh, no.
Fatality.
Oh no! You've ruined Kirby for all our listeners. Way to go!
I mean, Kirby is terrifying.
It is terrifying.
We're lucky.
Speaking of Sherping,
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Ooh, I like it.
I was Sherping some people in Destiny 2 the other day.
Ooh, I like it.
I finally managed to play the new raid a bit properly. I still didn't complete that raid because it's really hard.
Excellent
but
segue, by the way. We
Yes,
needs to
yes,
it
do
we
is
had
that.
to
very, yeah,
call it
no, no,
out. I
yeah,
was
yeah,
waiting for
yeah,
you.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. It is very good. It just shows once again that Bungie has such a good grasp of communication as game design,
Hmm.
like inter-team communication as part of their game design. Like everything you do is too much to discuss everything
Hmm.
in the time that you have. So you really need to get good at figuring out what you need to communicate, when you need to communicate, who needs to talk, when it needs to be communicated. And this first fight of the new raid is just again a masterclass in making engaging, complicated things that are fun to play with a group of 6,
Hmm.
um, which is so much harder than it sounds, right?
It sounds hard enough, so.
Right. Um, but yeah, it's a beautiful encounter. I really, really, really love it. It's a beautiful sort of eerie, dark museum, a museum of like the darkness. And it's just it's one of those Destiny fights where you split the group of 6 into 3 groups of 2, and then each of them do the same thing. But as more of the groups are doing the same thing, the communication gets messier and messier.
Hmm.
And at the end, everybody needs to communicate. So they build it up really well. Everybody has a task. Everybody can stay focused. Everybody needs to figure out when to do what. It's a beautiful chaos, and when you get it, you really feel like a team, and that's really my favorite feeling about Destiny raids. So
What,
very
what
excited
what's
about
it
that.
called this time? Is it? It's not a horse. It's something else.
No, no, I'm wearing a horse T-shirt,
Okay.
but the it's actually the Star Horse from Destiny. But no, the raid is called Vow of the Disciple, and you enter one of the dark pyramids that are sort of like the enemy capital ships. It sounds like, or the enemy like big ships, and they're places in which the darkness sort of has taken hold of reality as well. So everything is dark and spooky and terrifying, and but it's also very clean and orderly, which is, I think that's sort of what the darkness is in Destiny. It's like order, right? It's a lack of entropy. It's patterns that are like clean and fractal, while light is more chaotic and less predictable, more round shapes. You know, like
Hmm.
they have this language for both sides of that coin. So it's very stark. It's very brutalist. It's very like hard lines, harsh corners, but still like clearly an aesthetic, right? Like not like it's lines. Like this is it's not a ugly place. It's just not our place. I think that's what Bungie is kind of staring at. That everything is a little more gray than black and white, which remains an exciting direction for the story.
Interesting.
Hmm.
How long does Destiny raids last nowadays?
I mean, if you know the raid, you can. Some of the raids you're done in like 45 minutes.
Oh, that's
Okay.
still long. Yeah.
Oh,
But
still long. Yeah.
if
Yeah.
if
It
you
used to be longer than I
don't
think,
know,
like back at Destiny 1 and early Destiny 2.
well, it also depends on how good you are, right? Because if
Yeah.
you bring a team and one of the people is new, it goes from 45 minutes to three
Yeah.
hours,
Yeah.
Because you're
right?
failing a
And
few
if
times and you have to like.
yeah, and if you are all new, like I mean, I've played this raid twice for 6 hours, and both times we only beat the first encounter
Hmm.
Wow.
out of what is probably 3 encounters on average.
Wow.
So you know, it's not raids are they're intense, they're big commitments, but they're fun.
They're like as long as a
Hmm.
game, a short game.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but they're very fun because you're with
Yeah.
friends. Now that I've had an opportunity to talk about Destiny, I feel it's time for Osama to talk about New Game Plus of Elden Ring.
So New Game Plus. Oh, Elden Ring, of course. So okay,
Wow.
yeah. It took me a second. I'm like, I didn't play Destiny New Game Plus. What are you talking about? So yeah, I think Elden Ring is kind of becoming an evergreen game for me a little bit, in the similar way that Breath of the Wild was. So when I beat Breath of the Wild, this is a little bit of a spoiler, but when you beat Breath of the Wild, it kind of reloads the last save before the last boss, right? So you get to continue from that point on. And what I ended up doing is, when I had enough strength to beat Ganon or Ganondorf, I forget what he's called in that game. I just like kept exploring and kept seeing new things, and there was enough in there until I was satisfied that I've turned every rock in the game. It was a in between game. I just finished the game. I'll pick up Breath of the Wild for a bit, go back in the world, immerse myself in it, and then continue when I'm after a couple of hours of doing that, I'll jump into the next game. I didn't expect Elden Ring to do the same thing to me, but it did. So when I jumped into New Game Plus, I just wanted to see how far I could go to beat the bosses before I hit a wall, and I didn't have any interest in getting stuck on a wall. Uh, but now, like, it's been a maybe a week, 2 weeks since I beat it. I've hopped in for 1 or 2 hours at a time, a few times, and each time I'm discovering new things. This thing shocked me. So there's a main character in the game, NPC, who I was part of like the end part of a quest, and I thought that was the purpose of that character, and then part of another quest that I completed in my first playthrough. And I encountered this character early in my New Game Plus this time, and he basically put me on a new quest that I didn't even know existed. And I'm following it, and it's elaborate, and it's taking me through different parts of the game. And I'm kind of shocked because, without giving up any information of who this person is, that person dies in the later quest in my first playthrough. So basically, it means, based on the sequences of when you encounter them, there are quests that you just don't have access to because you just missed it at one point, and the NPC died, which is not very common in open world games. Most open world
Mhm.
games, the side quests are like separate. You don't want missable content, so they're separate from the main storyline, and there's not much you could do that will close them off. Like, I know there are exceptions, but they're exceptions, right?
Yeah.
In Elden Ring, it's starting to feel like it's designed so that you play it again and go
Yeah.
through different
Uh,
hoops and try different things.
I was about to say that. I think the game is designed with New Game Plus in mind, or New Game, just like, trying out different characters and builds,
Yeah,
and also making sure that you encounter something new, well, not every time, but almost, you
almost.
know?
I'm seeing complete dungeons that I've never played before with really interesting mechanics. I'm seeing towns that I've never encountered. There was like a really weird moment where I saw a boss that kind of felt like Sauron from Lord of the Rings, and
Hmm.
or like this moment, I should say, that I didn't experience in the first game at all. Only because I kind of went a little bit to the left on the map. I'm like, huh, I don't think I went this way, and it was a really, like, cinematic moment, if I can say that. It was like a really, you know uh, memorable moment, and I had missed it the first time. I'm shocked by how much they crammed into this game. It doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
It doesn't make sense at all. It's shocking. And I feel like I'm playing easy mode, the easy mode I've always wanted, because New Game Plus is so far so much easier, so much easier. I don't know if it'll keep up until you get to the end game, but like, I'm maybe a quarter of the way through of of the game already, or maybe a third, something between that, which took me a fraction of the time because I'm not hitting myself against any walls. I'm just, every encounter I beat on my first try, that kind of thing. I still have to try because the way it's set up is, if you don't try, you will die, right? But now I have the muscle memory for many of the boss fights and the tools that I need, and I don't have to be as perfect, right? I could take 3-4 hits instead of one hit, like in my first playthrough, in certain encounters, right? In the hardest encounters. So that's a lot of forgiveness. Take 2-3 hits, go heal, come back, and you're good to go again, right? So I'm enjoying it. I'm loving it. I'm probably going to pick it up and drop it every once in a while, like I did with Breath of the Wild and other games similar to it.
Nice.
But it's going to be very hard, I think, for a game to top this as my game of the year. I know it's just, well, as this airs, it's May, uh, which we're not even halfway through the year. But it's been something else of an experience.
It's a landmark video game, I think, for the
Yeah,
past, I don't know, years, not just months. So, yeah, it'll be
agreed.
hard for any game to top it.
Agreed.
For sure. For sure.
Yeah.
Okay. Nice. I
Speaking of our games of the year, I think Rami was playing one we talked about a lot on this podcast at some point.
yeah, I replayed Aegis Rim, but this time on the Nintendo Switch.
What a game!
Uh,
Yeah.
what a game! So I thought maybe it won't work as well if you know the twists and the plot works just as well.
Mhm.
Um, in fact, in some ways, it works better because you now know what the characters are going to be facing, and you can see the build up towards those things.
Mm.
Um, but also because the narrative is so non-linear that you just arrive at the same things in different ways. So there were plot twists that I now learned of in ways that were different than the first time I played them because the first time I played it, just because I followed different characters first instead of other characters. Um, and I will admit, this game was one of the best games of the year in 2020 or 2019 when it originally came out on the PS4,
Pretty
Mhm.
sure it
or
came
was
out
it
2020
2021?
because it came out while we were recording this podcast.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
2020 then. Um, when it came out on the PlayStation, it was just an incredible game. Now that it's on the Switch, it's somehow even better.
Hmm.
It feels extremely at home on the Switch. Performance feels better, which is wild. Um, they've removed one or two like cheese strategies that just really simplified the strategy part of the game, and that now feels more like a game too. So it's just it's like the game of the year edition of Aegis Rim. I 100%ed it again because you just don't you're not gonna not 100% it. That would be bonkers for a game like this. Um, and yeah, love the characters, love the world. Sad that I'm done. What a wonderful, strange, special, unrecreatable video game that is.
Hmm.
Um,
I really
I
need to
don't
go
even
back
think
to
that
it.
same team. I don't even think that same team could make that same game again.
Oh, wow, that much.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, it's very special.
I regret falling off it. I was enjoying it, and different things came out, and I put it aside, and then it became harder and harder to go back. And now I want to go back. I'm like halfway through the game, but I want to go back.
So you're at the start because you've forgotten everything.
Well, the only reason I think I'm halfway through is because I said I've been playing it for like 12 or 15 hours, something like that, and you
Right.
said that's about halfway through. That's the only reason I
Yeah,
think
that's
that.
what I took 33
Yeah.
hours on the
I
playthrough.
haven't forgotten everything. I think I don't remember any character names though, but I'm usually pretty bad at remembering character names anyway.
Right.
But like now, not
Uh,
at all. But I remember the characters
unless
themselves and some of the scenes.
unless when you see them you remember like their story,
Yeah.
you should just restart the game.
I might
Honestly.
I might do that. It's okay.
Yeah.
It's back
It's
in
one
my
of those
backlog.
things that I think, like, before you pick it up, go like, I want to dedicate 30 hours to this game over the next couple of weeks and play nothing else and just focus on
Yeah.
finishing it because the story just goes into so many twists and turns that it'll be really hard to keep up with what's going on everywhere at the same time.
Yeah, I hear you.
Yeah.
Everyone says
Yeah, this is a
such good things about it that I feel like it's worth that investment. So I might just start
It's
over.
great.
Yeah.
I can recommend that. I can really recommend it. Speaking of remakes, I am also playing the new Stanley Parable Ultra Deluxe.
You like it?
It's Stanley Parable.
Yeah.
I don't think it's a game you like.
It's but it's an experience that you enjoy.
I mean, it's also not really an experience to enjoy.
Really?
I think the Stanley Parable is mostly like the way I always explain the Stanley Parable is you play video games and the Stanley Parable plays you. Right. And that's really what the Stanley Parable is. Like I kind of know what happens in the Stanley Parable and I know how it works and I know what it does and I know most of the endings and I am still mortified by the baby going towards the fire minigame, which takes 4 hours and has a crying baby continuously and then has a giant air horn going off every time you press the button that resets the baby away from the
Oh
fire.
my god.
And it is an exploration of the pressures of family life.
Yep.
The art world will really love it, apparently. Um, They've also added some extra content, including a jump circle in which you can jump in the Stanley Parable,
Oh.
which is great because there was originally an achievement that said you can't jump, but for the expansion, they added one small circle in a giant empty room in which you can jump. So, that's nice. Really new features there. But yeah, no, it's exactly what you would expect from a Stanley Parable expansion. There is new content. It is as self-deprecating, self-deferential, um, self-aware as the original content was.
Mhm.
It is still a good game. It's nice to have it on the Switch or on the PlayStation or other platforms. If you feel like a weird sense of nihilism, then yeah, absolutely, it is still the Stanley Parable. You laugh a lot, but also you spend a lot of time going like, oh my god.
Mhm. It's the trolliest game I've ever played. It trolls you like crazy, but
Yep.
I mean, I loved the original Stanley Parable, and as someone who in general doesn't like walking simulators, like that is. I keep saying that, but there are a few that are exceptional, so exceptional that I absolutely love them. Stanley Parable was the first one that I fell in love
Mm.
with, and you're right. It's not fun in the traditional sense, but it's engaging and
Yeah.
makes you think.
Yeah.
So, like in that sense, I really
I
enjoyed the
agree.
experience, even the parts
Yeah.
that were difficult. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah, it is still very good, and the new content is like it is really. You spend a lot of time laughing, groaning, rolling your eyes.
Yeah,
So it is very up to the Stanley Parables level, which
good.
yeah, it was good to be back in that for a bit.
Something I wanted to mention is that I don't know why, but I see a lot of Stanley Parable in student projects. So I'm not sure
Hmm.
if that's your
Yeah.
experience, but it seems that like as students start to make games themselves, they start to make commentary on video game making in their games. So like
Yes.
Yep.
almost immediately, like second or third game projects, they start to like have either comedic or conversational or a take, let's say. But almost generally, they immediately start using video games as a communication medium about video game making themselves, and that
Yep.
almost always reminds me of Stanley Parable and these kinds of games. And I'm not sure like if they're connected,
Mm.
as in like the students played Stanley Parable as they were younger, then went into game development, and that started showing into their game, or that by making video games and you just stop for a second and think about what you're doing, you'll inevitably make a Stanley Parable like game
Right.
because of
I don't know.
like like just like once you see the Matrix, it's kind of hard not to talk about it. But
Yeah.
it's
Right.
an interesting connection. I think I don't know if you guys seen the same working with students or something.
Yeah. I,
Yeah.
I have, but I also think it's not just the Stanley Parable. There's been sort of a tradition or an increased tradition of doing that, right? So back in the days, you had Don't Cut the Rope,
Hmm.
Yeah.
right, and then Stanley Parable, and then we had Near Automata,
Yeah.
which also sort of is a criticism of video game
Hmm.
There's also that
structure.
that game that gave you different mechanics as part of DLC. What was it called? DLC Quest or something like that? I forget what it was
Right.
called. Yeah.
Spec Ops: The
Uh,
Line to some extent made the
Yeah.
Spec of the
commentary.
Line.
Yeah.
Yep. So I feel like it's just more common, and it's more in the public awareness that it's a thing you can do,
Hmm.
and
Mhm.
it's also something that feels easy,
Hmm.
Yeah.
right? It feels easy to do. It is incredibly hard to pull it off,
Hmm.
but you look at it and you're like, well, we'll just add a narrator that makes a joke about what you're doing.
Hmm.
And I think to a lot of students that feels like an easy win, and
Hmm.
it never is.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
so I always find that
I
fascinating.
think it's
Yeah.
also because I agree with both of you. I think also what it is that they're learning about games, so that's fresh in their minds. So all those
Hmm.
like those concepts and words are just there, and that's the most recent reference that they have when they're making their games. And so
Hmm.
they pull from that to make their games. Because I have had the same experience, and it's usually you're right. It's usually not the first or second games. The first and second game they make, I'm usually fighting with them not to make their dream game, and like
Yeah.
that's usually the struggle. It's
Trying
like
to
no, no,
make
no.
their RPG or
Yes.
like their
No
dream
MMORPG.
platformer
Yeah. And sometimes I still
or a
fail. They-
Diablo-like game.
Yes,
Yep.
yes, absolutely. And sometimes I still fail. They still try. Sometimes, usually, still fail. They're still over ambitious for the first game, but it's a valuable lesson. But then
Sure.
when they learn that, the next thing is what's their most recent reference, and in our
Right.
cases, it's tons and tons of game design theory. So I think it's natural that seeps into their games now.
Yeah.
Fair.
And also, like, first person, you don't need a lot of character animation if you don't
Yeah.
have to jam pack that into the game.
Yep.
And narration is something that you could record on yourself. Like, there's a lot of the tools that Stanley Parable used to tell its narrative that is just easier to obtain for like young developers or people who are just starting out, and then that influences the game they're making.
Yeah.
So whether they intend to or not, it kind of comes out as an homage to Stanley Parable anyway.
Yeah.
Right.
Just because
Speaking
of the tools they use, it's very much the same.
Oh,
Absolutely.
I'm hearing an Osama
Oh,
segue coming.
There's a segue coming.
It wasn't a
This is
segue. It sounded like what Allah was going to say. Speaking of homage, I often find myself in the games of my students.
Mhm.
I'm often an NPC or a character or something along
Nice.
those lines.
That's
I think
the
it's
easiest
because
way to get extra credit.
Are you? Are you?
it's not
are
always
you-
flattering, so no.
But is it flattering sometimes? Are you
yes,
like,
it is flattering
yeah.
sometimes.
Are you like super strong or something?
If I remember, I think the first game that it ever happened in was a horror game. It was a board game, like a horror game, where the antagonist had like 5 heads, and it was the 5 teachers of the program, and I was one of the heads. So I think that if I remember correctly, that was the first time the teachers had a ball, like we were cracking up
Right,
and
of
laughing.
course.
And that set the tone going forward, where we would be represented in different games. So yeah,
Nice.
not exactly a segue.
So yeah, speaking of Osama as an avatar, did you all watch Moon Knight?
Yes, and I loved it. Okay, so I almost accidentally spoiled it on a previous podcast because
Right. By the time this comes out, episode 6, the final episode should be out.
Yes.
So I think we can speak up to episode 5.
Yes,
I haven't seen any of it yet.
Yalla
by
hui.
the way.
Yeah.
Yes,
You should.
I have a lot to
Yeah.
catch up on.
you
I
should.
was watching
I think.
other stuff. It's
Yeah.
coming up next.
Finally, a TV series with our people in it, and you go like, let's watch them.
I want to
If
watch
I was-
everything. I want to watch everything at the same time. I don't want to do the
Yeah.
one episode a week thing.
That's fair. It's all
Okay,
good.
Tamam.
Yeah.
Anyway, so yeah, let's just say Moon Knight is good then.
Yes, and we'll talk about it when Fauzi's caught up.
When Fauzi's caught up.
Al-Qara. Okay.
But
Inshallah, next
The
week.
only
Next
Inshallah.
week is episode 6.
The only thing I want to say before we wrap up Moon Knight is it's so incredible how they're able to tie all the loose ends from all the different realities of the comics into one TV show. It's masterful. Like, it's something that would have been difficult to attempt, and they didn't just attempt it. But so far, I'll reserve judgment until last episode. But so far, they're pulling it off magnificently.
Fauzi, close your ears for a second.
Okay.
Okay, I'll click the little hand thing when you can listen again. Osama, just for everybody listening, if you don't want spoilers, same thing. Where do you think this is going?
I don't know. Do you know? You have a.
I have no
I
idea.
have no idea. I just don't know.
That is brilliant.
How are they going
I
to wrap
love
it up in one episode? That's the big
I have
question.
no idea. Either it's hard to say which side they're going to lean into.
Yeah.
That's
And I
really the
think
question.
that's the beauty of it. Is both
Right.
could be the reality.
Yeah. No, I mean more than both.
Yeah.
At this point, there's like 3 or 4 different realities that could be true,
That's true. That's true.
which is bonkers.
Yes, it's incredible.
Really well done. Like all they have to do for the final episode is pick one.
Yeah, or not. It could be a huge bait and switch.
Yeah. Oh my god. Yeah, it's really good.
So
It's
good.
really good. Plus, I just really like ending with a lot of Egyptian music most episodes.
Yeah. Oh yeah, that is beautiful. The highlight
Makes me
for
very
sure.
happy. It makes me very happy. All right, Tamam, let me get Fauzi back
All
in
right,
here.
let's do it.
Yeah, Fauzi.
Back.
Welcome back.
Okay, welcome
We
back.
said nothing.
Good to-
We were just quiet for the full 30 seconds. We just said like, wow, isn't it calm here?
Speaking of TV shows,
Nice.
I like it.
I watched. I want to talk about the show because it's not like the typical TV shows I usually watch. This
Mm,
show is
Okay.
called Old Enough on
mhm,
Netflix. It's a Japanese show. The translation is I don't think it does the Japanese title justice. It translates into My First Errand,
mm,
and it's classifies into like the Japanese variety show category. But it's I think the closest thing to it would be reality TV, except it's not scripted for the most part.
mhm.
Um, they choose kids, like a 2 or 3 year old kid, and then like their mom or dad, they ask them to do their first errand, which is like usually like the kid will have to go to the supermarket, pick up some stuff, then go to the other store, pick up some more stuff, then go back to their parents on their own.
Mhm.
And the kid is just being accompanied by a film crew, like lots of camera people, like running after the kid basically and
Oh
filming
wow.
what they're doing. And it's
That,
just so wholesome. It's 10 minutes an episode.
hmm.
It's an old show, by the way. I think like it used to air in Japan in the early '90s, like 1991 or something like that. So like a lot of these kids are now like people in their 30s.
Yeah. Well,
But
like
it's
that
it's
was my generation, right? My generation. I used to go out to the corner store when I was really young, and I used to buy
yeah,
things from. It was very different. Now, people are a lot more protective of the kids for a lot of reasons. I guess.
yeah.
Yeah, that's very
But these kids are
interesting.
also like very young. Some are like they're even younger than the age in which we used to go and run errands. Like I think
Oh
when I was
yeah,
5 or 6, my mom used to send me out to buy stuff.
exactly.
But these kids are like 2 and 3.
What?
Like they're
What?
yeah, they like can barely walk.
Okay, that
And
is. I would have a lot of anxiety watching that, even knowing there's a film crew on hand. Wow.
it's oftentimes it's a small town in like rural Japan, and like and it's not only the film crew. There's like the entire town is kind of cheering on for the kid to go on
Yeah,
and do the thing.
yeah.
Um,
That's so cute.
it's so cute and wholesome. Like like I couldn't stop myself from just mentioning it. It's like if you want like a 10 minutes of like a wholesome show to watch in the
Yeah,
middle of like a lot of like I know I've been talking a lot about drama and gangsters in
yeah,
my in my suhoor bites. This is
yeah.
just something completely different and a very
I
nice
mean,
palate cleanser, I guess.
I'm just really laughing because the first article I found about it is called "Old Enough," the Japanese TV show that abandons toddlers on public transport. You know what? I'll give it a try.
Sounds
I'll
wholesome to
watch it.
me.
Yep.
It's
Oh,
a
wait.
lot more wholesome than that description.
Yeah. That's it.
Okay, speaking of TV shows that are not typically ones that we would watch,
Oh,
yeah,
nice.
I
Wow.
am
Segue.
watching.
Beautiful.
It's a segue to a segue. So, I'm watching Bridgerton, which is not a thing I would have ever expected to like, but I heard rave reviews about it and had to try it. So, what it is, it's a Regency era, um, like drama focused on London high society. So like kings and queens and duchess and like uh, dukes and things like that, with like high tea time and galas and like all that extravagant stuff. Um, I saw a lot of people saying really good things about it, and I was curious. I thought it would be one of those shows where I'm like, I'll see if it's for me. I'll watch an episode or two, and I got hooked. But nothing about it is what I usually watch. It's not similar to anything that I've seen before. Uh, the drama is delicious. I'm absolutely loving it, and I'm hooked. I can't explain it. It's really 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 good, and I would suggest anyone who would be curious about that. It's just the acting is superb, and there were a lot of intense moments, and it speaks to the human condition and the human motivation so much. It has a lot of traditionalism in there, but it's also a reimagining. Like I'm shocked by the level of diversity that they have in the show itself. So it's a breath of fresh air. Like it's not a period piece where you have to be subjugated again to the realities of like racism or things like that, which it's fair and there's a place for that, but sometimes you just want to not think about that.
Not.
Yeah, and this lets you not think about that and imagine just
Nice.
races getting along, and now it's a class thing instead. And that's fine. I could turn on that part of my brain and turn off the other one for a bit. So I'm absolutely like the season 2. The main character is Indian, and in Britain, and nobody is referencing it in a negative light at all, and it's so
Right.
refreshing. You know what I mean? So yeah, I'm loving it. I'm halfway through season 2. Season 3 just came out, and did not expect to like it, but I love it.
Well, okay, cool. You know what happened 100 years after that TV show?
Wait, what? What do you mean?
100 years after that TV show, the Wright brothers did the first powered flight,
Okay.
which leads me to my next topic.
Oh my god, that was a segue 100 years in the making. I did not know where you were going with that. I love it. Thank you for going
I
there.
did flight class.
Too smooth.
Too smooth. This, just really, really beautiful there. In aviation, we call smooth landing butter, like a butter landing, and this was a
Wow.
butter segue.
That was a butter segue. That's
so smooth.
That's
that
the
you
title
didn't
of our
even feel it.
episode, Butter Segue.
A butter segue. Let me make a note. We're making that the butter segue. I'm gonna find this in my notes like in 3 weeks and just be like, what? What is this? What is this about? So I've been continuing my flight classes. And it's been a while since I caught you up on that. I don't remember when the last time was we spoke about this. I have spent the past few weeks, landing at every uncontrolled airfield in the Netherlands. So I've now only have one more missing, and it's really fun. Different airports are really, really fun. They're very different. Some of them have, like hard runways. Some of them are just grass. Some of them are like in towns, and you have to fly over buildings to get there. Some of them are like in the middle of nowhere. Some of them are on like tiny islands. It's just been really fun, just landing and getting to know the people at those airfields, and the people running the tower, and
So exciting.
you have to go say
I'm
hi
so
and
happy for
pay.
you that you're doing that. It's incredible.
The one downside so far has been that obviously it was Ramadan
Yeah.
when I did those exercises, and usually those airports have a little restaurant where you can have a little bite.
Oh.
So after Ramadan is over, I'm gonna go and do those flights again.
Mhm.
Today was actually a really big day when we're recording this. I did my third progress test, which is 3 out of 4.
Wow.
And it's sort of like a in-progress examination of your flying. And it was a wild one, because you have to do all sorts of exercises, including stalling the plane, emergency landings, simulated precautionary landings, basically all sorts of stuff that can go wrong with the airplane.
Mhm.
And you have to show control of the airplane. So straight and level flight, normal turns, steep turns, circuits, descending, stuff like that. And the reason they teach you all of that is because after this part, you will be allowed to fly on your own to other airfields that you've been to before. So from this point on, I'm basically free to fly across the Netherlands.
That's incredible.
Wow.
So the next step is the cross country.
Mm.
And that is a flight that has specific requirements. You have to land at 2 different aerodromes than the one you took off from, full stop landing. So you actually have to stop the airplane, turn it off, pay for your landing, go back to the airplane, start it back up, and continue flying.
Mhm.
You have to go to at least 2 different airfields than the one you took off from, and you have to fly at least 130 miles, I think.
Mhm.
So I've decided that I'm going to do something silly. You have to do at least 2 airfields. Everybody does 2. I'm going to try and hit every single one in the Netherlands, which is 7, I think, for my cross country. So I'm starting my preparation for that now, and that would apparently be a record for the school. So
That's incredible.
I'm excited to try
I'm
that.
so proud of you.
Amazing.
I'm also.
I mean, I have to do it
Yeah.
before like you can be proud of it. But for now, it's fun.
I'm still proud of you that you got this far, but I'm also proud of all 3 of us. We got through every single topic that you mentioned.
Oh, beautiful.
It's incredible. We even mentioned Eid
did.
briefly, so we did.
Yeah, we mentioned our Eid. hitting every topic, what topics do our emails hit this week?
Oh my god.
Butter
Oh,
segue. All right, so let's start with one. Well, let's read some.
This is so smooth that it's bad again. It's great.
I love it. So I'm digging into some of the older emails that we haven't read.
Okay.
So some of them will feel like they should have been read before. So apologies for that. But yeah, we got busy and all that. So let's start with this one. This one's by Jose, frequent writer, frequent listener. We love you, Jose. Keep writing us. Basically, it comes in two parts. The first part is more of a statement. As a non-Arab, non-Muslim listener, I have been absolutely enjoying the Sahur Bites this Ramadan. Hearing the parallels with my own upbringing, Latino, vaguely Christian, as well as the differences, have given me a much better and fonder understanding of Ramadan. Also, the Sahur Bites themselves are wonderful conversations. I have so much food to catch up on now. Oh, thank you, Jose. Part two.
That's so nice.
Part two, and this is relevant because other people have asked similar or the same question in the Discord and other places. So I think it's really cool to have this conversation. Part two is maybe asking for some free career advice here, but I was wondering if it's possible to make a career shift into the games industry as a producer. The notion of a producer varies widely between industries, and in games, it can even vary between studios. But in a general sense, is it even possible to make that shift without going indie or self publishing? Given that you generally need a team to be a producer, thus going solo doesn't seem immediately practical. What can one do to get those first lines on a resume?
Yeah, I mean, yes, you can totally do that. I know a lot of people who come from outside of games. Basically, what you want to have is you want to have you want to be a clear and you want to be a clear communicator, and you want to have a history in project management, certifications or others that might refer to experience doing Scrum or Agile or anything might be helpful, depending on the company and depending on the context and depending on what a producer does in that company. But in general, the same things are true. You are a team manager and you are a project manager, right? That seems to be true for a producer almost everywhere I've seen it. So if you have those experiences, applying for either associate producer, junior producer roles will usually give you a pretty good shot.
Depending on the studio, there's also a role called production coordinator, and it's very similar. It's to what a producer does, but it's like a entry level. And a lot of times you do that, but you do other things that are not exactly related to production. But it's a great way to get into a team and learn how to work with them and show that you're able to be a producer as well. So,
right,
that title has a lot of different variations as well. It could be a project coordinator, production coordinator. But generally, it's what Osama said, like a very nice entry level thing to use.
The real big recommendation I would have if you want to make that switch is look for a position where you have a games producer working above you. I know a lot of people want to go into production and they go indie, and it is actually the hardest way of becoming a producer is working with an indie team, because the team is a mess. You don't have mentorship or access to people who have done it. So even if you're a very good project manager in construction, or you're a really good project manager in I don't know, a store or whatever it is, right? Games are a very specific, weird beast, and getting a feeling for how long things might take, getting a feeling for what kind of estimates you can trust and which kinds you can't, and how much you can trust them. Getting a feeling for like the margins you need, for the way of thinking, for the way of approaching things. Having somebody who actually has done that for a while and has experience working above you or with you really, really helps in this regard. So don't try to go it alone. This is not a, I'm going to figure it out as we go kind of job, because you literally have the on time and on budget delivery of the game dependent on you.
Yeah, ideally, you need to witness a cycle either by doing it yourself under a watchful eye, or like being part of a team that is will be able to mentor you and be there for you as the cycle is going. because you don't know what you don't know, and there's some things that you have to see for yourself to see how they really are done, and that's the experience that you need eventually.
Some of the best producers I know, and some of the best producers in the industry, are people who haven't necessarily done a full cycle. They're aware that they haven't done a full cycle, and even half a decade into their career, they will still reject doing a full cycle because they just haven't seen it. So they'll look for mentorship, or they'll look for somebody who has done that. So even super experienced producers tend to be hyper aware of their strengths and weaknesses, because it's just incredibly important for especially in the producer role, that you understand where risks and opportunities are, and that includes within yourself, right?
I'd say also, and it's going to sound like it's a contradiction to what Rami said, but I don't mean it as one. If you find like a small indie hobbyist team that's like making a game that's low stakes, that doesn't have a producer, that might not be a bad idea to donate some time to them and help them try to set up while you're learning. If you're very transparent about what you're able to do, I've seen that work out in some situations. So it's something. It's not going to be a job, but it's going to get you those, because you refer to those first lines on a resume. That can get you your first lines on a resume. I've done similar things where I worked on a hobbyist project in the past, and I knew a person who was in the modding scene who wanted to become a game designer and couldn't get anything on the resume. And I just basically worked with him briefly just on the game, showed him a couple of things, gave him a few tasks, and gave him his credit, game design credit, and allowed him to get a job. And now he's at a big AAA studio as a lead position. So it worked out in a very big way. I'm not saying it's always going to work, but there are situations where, as long as the other team is not depending on you being perfect on your first time doing the job, where it's low stakes enough where you can attempt to volunteer sometime.
Like, basically just assume you're not even going to be good on your first time around.
Exactly.
Right? Like, that's the attitude you have to come in with. If the team is okay with that, then yeah, of course. But like, in general, I would say find a team that is somewhat larger, like large AA,
definitely,
or AAA, where there is the space for mentorship, where there's the time for mentorship, and bring clear project management and communication and team management experience. Bring that to your interview, because that's the things people are going to look for. This game specific thing, there's so many jobs in games where people land in the job without game specific knowledge per se. Because that part is easy to teach, right? Like we're experts on that. Everybody in a studio is experts on video games, so that part is not the hard part to teach. But being a good communicator, that's hard to teach, right? Being a kind communicator is hard to teach. Being a good project manager, being diligent, being precise, those things are hard to teach. Those take years to teach. Going like, okay, in games this takes a little longer than you might think. That takes 2 seconds to explain. I just did it. Right? So, keep that in mind. If you find a team where you don't even have to be good, what Osama said, 100%. And then just use it as experience to see how it feels and where you can be useful. My general recommendation for producers specifically is find a bigger studio.
Yeah, I agree. If you can, absolutely.
Yeah.
Do we have time for another email?
Quick one, Fauzi?
I don't have quick ones. I only have 2 long ones. So do we delay them?
Save them till next week.
Okay, we'll do that.
Save them to next week. Khalas. Tamam. Good. This is a really... somebody do a segue. Next week. Oh, there is the segue. Save them for next week, because this is the end of the episode.
Oh, I love it.
Yeah. It's right there. It was right in front of me. It was right in front of me. Fauzi set it up, and I swung and I missed.
Which is the perfect segue.
We don't do direct segues. It has to be deep, then butter. You can't just go straight into it. Doesn't work that way.
That's not how it works. We hit every topic in just over 1 hour. That's incredible.
Did we do that? I'm impressed.
It's a very productive podcast. Good job.
Very productive podcast. I had a good time. It's good to have everybody back together. I missed y'all.
Yeah, same.
Let's try more. Let's try to do more of this.
Inshallah, we'll do that.
Inshallah.
In every way that inshallah means.
Just all the inshallahs.
All stacked together.
The many meanings of inshallah.
Absolutely.
Tamam, good. Well, that was another episode of the Habibis. For everybody listening, don't forget to send your emails to Osama at info@thehabibis.com. There will be a next episode, inshallah, next Friday. For now, everybody, salam.
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 That was the Habibis podcast for this week. I was Rami Ismail, your host for this episode. You can find me on Twitter at @THA_Rami. My fellow Habibis were Osama Dorias, who you can find on Twitter at Osama Dorias, and Fauzi Mesmar, who you can find on Twitter at Fauzi Mesmar. Send us your questions, stories, and suggestions via info@thehabibis.com. The intro and outro music was provided by Malik Zubaila, and the logo was provided by Ibrahim Hamdi. The Habibis is a weekly podcast about 3 game developers drinking good Arab tea, with new episodes launching every Friday, inshallah. If you enjoyed the show, don't forget to subscribe on your favorite podcasting service or check out thehabibis.com for more information. Thank you for listening, and salam.